Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Paleodraw, and today we're going to be finishing up with our Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah drawing from Godzilla King of the Monsters. So, without further ado, let's get started. And then now, we can go in and get started with our big boy Ghidorah here. So yeah, that'll be fun. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Alright, so we're going to start with the heads, which I'm probably going to have to zoom in a bit, so I don't know how I do that. Alright, so hopefully I got that zoomed in good enough. Alright, so let's go ahead and start with drawing this first head for Ghidorah. So we're just going to start out by just making finer lines for everything. I just want to get that crease in, and then, yeah, I mean, it's pretty basic stuff, just outline everything we already have. Yeah, that eye ridge. And that's going to lead up to our spikes, or horns, I guess you would call them. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the first one in here. These may or may not be accurately sized. I'm just hoping that they are. Actually, let me erase that one real quick. That went a bit sideways. That's okay. Yeah, I had the sketchbook really far out from where I am right now, so it's kind of a stretch to get over here because I'm just using a phone right now. What I use to record or put my phone on to record is not exactly the most maneuverable thing, so yeah, that's kind of what our base head is going to look like. Then we can draw the other horn coming out, and the other one over here. Actually, you know what, we don't even need to draw the other one, we can just leave that one out, it's probably fine. We can erase some of these unneeded lines. Alright, so we can go and get started now with the eyes. Alright, so we're just going to do this tiny slant here. The eye, we're going to put the pupil in here. Might actually be the best one. So yeah, I might go in and just keep that. I'm going to do a bit of a wrinkle bit right here. Then he has his nose. Then he has kind of like a ridge right here that you can see. Then you got the muscle. Yeah, then we can probably just go in and draw in the teeth. The thing that I noticed about the teeth is that he has fangs, which I'm pretty sure were in original Toho ones, but yeah, so do the main fangs and then make everything else just kind of a bit smaller, or a lot smaller actually. And his tongue, I think it's a snake tongue actually, kind of forks out. Okay, never mind, it doesn't fork out. So yeah, it's just really going to be like our Godzilla tongue. I'll make it a bit thinner. Make it stick out a bit more. Just kind of get a more menacing and almost snake-like look. A reptilian look, I guess. It would be more reptilian than snake-like. So yeah. And we also got some small spikes on the top of his head here. And just draw those in. Yeah, some small spikes down at the bottom here. Just kind of make some small spastic patterns. And for his horns, we'll just put some lines in. And for the rest of his head, we'll just do exactly what we did with Godzilla and just circle it in with scales, like so. So that's our first Ghidorah head. We're going to move on to the next one up here. Alright. So, do the same thing. And I'm pretty sure that Ghidorah doesn't have lips. Alright, so I think for the purposes of just having it look more menacing, a few of the images I looked at did have his teeth showing, a few of them didn't. So it's kind of confusing, but I think we'll just have him out a tiny bit. Not much, but a tiny bit, just enough. Like that. Maybe like that, probably not. That looks a bit cartoony. Probably just something like that. Barely even visible. So yeah, then you got that. And then you had the eye ridge. Which I might go in and change just to make the main part a bit longer. So yeah, like that. We got the nose, the eye, which is going to be right there, which might also take me a long time, or not. No, I don't want to draw it like that. Same thing with this part of the mouth too. I don't want to make it look like he's smiling at all either. Something like that would be good. So yeah, that looks pretty good. Let me try to get the camera focus a bit more. Alright, then we got our spikes, or horns. And mess that up again. Alright, we just got the 5 horns here. Alright, so that's our second head. I'm gonna erase all these unneeded lines. Alright, so we just got some wrinkles in here. Then we're gonna have, that's really pretty much it. And I guess we have the spikes on the top of his head here. And we got kind of just the lines we do for his horns. Yeah, and then just circling everything with scales. Like that. Alright, let me move on to the next one. Alright, and we're gonna have this as probably, this is gonna be the most open one. Right. So we got that part, and then we have that, and we have the little crease in here. Alright, then we'll have the horns. Yeah, this is actually looking really good so far. It's definitely looking a lot better than I thought it would. Everything really, Godzilla and Ghidorah. So yeah, I think it's looking really good. Alright, I'm just gonna erase everything we don't need. Alright, and we can go ahead and make this part the little piece of tissue right there. Detail that and put his teeth in. Like so. Then got his tongue. Just gonna come out like that. Alright. Make a little mark right there that I'm gonna erase. Alright. And then we got his eye. Which I think we're just gonna leave like that. Yeah, looks pretty good. Alright, so you got that, his nose, got the lines for the horns, got the muscle. Actually, with this one, I forgot to put the spikes down at the bottom of his jaw here in the muscle line. So, and then with that, you got the muscle line, got the little spikes here. And then we're just gonna and tried everything with spikes, or not spikes, scales, sorry about that. So yeah, so that's what our heads will look like. I'm going to start with doing the neck, for this one at least. I'm going to start right here, so we'll go over, barely be able to see it. You guys can see all of that, right? Yeah. Alright, I'm just gonna come over there. Then you have this guy's head, or neck, sorry. It's just gonna kind of swerve down like that. Alright, let me just kind of move this down so I can show you guys his head. Alright. Her neck, sorry. I'm messing up my terms here. Alright. So just hardening in the lines we've already done. Look like that neck is extremely thick. So I'm going to change that. Alright. Just erase this little line right here. Alright, I think that's pretty much it for our necks for King Ghidorah. I'm going and putting the little details for the neck. Maybe not. I might just kind of do everything else without detail and then detail everything later. So I'm going to move it on down to the leg. Alright, so we're going to have main muscle come out right here. Alright, got the foot. Trying to get this in view without knocking everything over. Which we're just gonna have, I'm going to draw the claws in. Which I may or may not have to redo this several times to get right. I probably will, because that looks horrible.
A few moments later.
Okay. Let's see what would actually look best. What am I actually trying to do here? I might go ahead and put in his legs like they're, at least his toes are like closed, so we can do like a thing like that, and we're gonna have his middle foot or middle toe be a lot bigger than the rest. So probably just kind of do a little bit of lumps for the toes, just kind of show that like you can't see the claws because they're behind the toe. I think something like that would be good. You know what, I'll just go ahead and add in the spikes. Or not the spikes, the claws. Alright, so I think that's actually pretty good. Then we got the other leg, which will be up here. We're gonna have that kind of just go out like so. Might make that muscle part a bit more muscly. That's gonna go down here, so probably gonna be able to see it kind of, and then we're gonna see the toe spike, and then that toe, along with that toe. This doesn't look quite right. At least this bottom part right here doesn't.
One eternity later.
I think you might just have to leave it like that. Alright, so we're just gonna leave it like that, I guess. Just so we're not wasting too much time with stuff that's not really that important. Alright, so something like that would be good. Then we can go in and just kind of start drawing in the tails. At least where we're going to have them go. They go more that way. And the other tail is gonna kind of just follow suit. Alright. So yeah, I definitely knew that Ghidorah was probably gonna be the hardest thing in this for me to draw, because I'm not experienced at all to drawing two-headed dragons, so And again, there's a first time for everything. When I say two-headed dragons, I mean three-headed dragons, not two-headed dragons. I can count. I'm not stupid. I don't think I am. Sometimes I think I am, actually. Alright. So we got that. So we can probably just kind of put in some lines for the tail here. Then we can go ahead and start in for the wings. We're going to go ahead and do the left wing first. I'm going to zoom out a bit for that. Alright. So just kind of come out. Or no, it's going to be more diagonal like that. Just erase that. And then that's going to, let me put this somewhere. Alright. That's going to be seen through that part. Alright, and then we're just going to draw that, and that's going to go all the way to the end here. Then that is going to have a claw on it. It's going to look like that. And that's going to come back here. I'm probably just going to make a little break in between here so we have enough room to draw all the other sections that are going to sprout out from there. So yeah, just kind of make it look like that. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and draw in the other parts of it. My pencil just fell. Alright, so yeah, the other parts, which are also going to have spikes on them. I might try to make that a bit thinner, at least go a bit thinner. Maybe not. Alright, so yeah, just gonna draw the three little things that come out from here. And then just put little spikes on them. Just putting spikes on everything makes it look cooler. Not to mention that it actually is in the design itself, so kind of do feel obligated to put it in there anyway. Alright. Now the other three little flangey things. Which I don't know why they're there, they just are. Don't really serve a particular purpose, but they put them there. Alright, then we can go ahead and start putting in the webbing, the actual wing part in between each of them, like so. Like that. We're going to move on to this wing over here, which we are also going to have a part go up that, and go forward and then up. I'm going to erase that part. Alright, so then that's going to go up. Like so. And have that go off the page here, which is perfectly fine because that's what we want it to do. And we're going to have it come out at this part right here. And of course you got the spike on it. Alright. Now we're going to have all these different spikes from this main area right here. I'm going to draw these spikes in right now. That one. You can be able to see the spike on that. Oh, that's a bit weird. Okay, hold on. So, spikes are going to be right there. So yeah, and then you got the little finger type joints in here. Alright, then you have the last one here. Oh, that looks wrong. Okay. That looks wrong too. Okay. So yeah, we're just gonna keep on drawing it. I'm gonna continue on with the original one and go over to there. Then we're gonna draw the more wingy parts of it. Oh yeah, and we need to draw the little 3 other little flaffy things. I don't know what you want to call them. So I just make the webbing just go to the very tip of each of them. And that's gonna go back in there. So that's your kind of main idea for what Ghidorah is gonna look like. You can go into the tails. They're gonna come out right here. Not like they're actually like coming out from Godzilla, but like they're behind him, so you can see him again. And then they're gonna come over here, and then you also got that kind of like weird spiky ankylosaur type club thing on the end of its tail. His tail, I should say. It's not a it's a he. So yeah, it's got that kind of weird spike, which I've only practiced a little bit with drawing, so it's gonna look kind of like that. And the shape is gonna have just 5 spikes on each side. Like so, and there's that middle spike. So it has 5 spikes on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you have the ones down the middle. Like that. So yeah, that's basically how it's going to look like. Just kind of scribble it in to add some detail, you know, whatever it is you want to call it. Alright, and this tail is going to come over. And you're also going to have the ankylosaur spike, or club, I guess you would call it. Then we're going to just draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That spike on the end there is looking a bit weird, so let me erase that and redraw it real quick. I think that this one is looking a bit odd. So yeah, I'm just gonna draw that in. Alright, and then you got the middle ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's scribble it in for detail. Alright, so that's what we have, our Ghidorah. Alright, let's go and get started detailing him now. Alright, so before I get into that, I'm going to go in and erase all our unneeded lines from the base sketch. Alright, so what we're first going to do is we're going to start with the neck for the right head over here. So it basically has 2 kind of different patterns for the head. Underneath the head, it's going to have kind of like a large fish scale type pattern, and on top of it, it's going to have almost like just a normal type scale pattern. So I'm going to draw that in. So for this one, it's probably going to be more like the underbody pattern is going to come over like that. And you're going to have the line of perspective, which is going to be right there. So these are going to be scales and these are going to be spikes. Those are going to go down. Yeah, so just going to get started with doing that. So just draw little curves. We can perfect them as we go on later. And we can do our spikes. Actually, we may change how they look for that. So whenever we're drawing them vertically, we want to make sure that they're not really in view that much. So I'm gonna get up here, and then they're gonna change direction. And they're gonna go behind the neck. Alright. So yeah, pretty much like that. So now what we can go in and do is just fix in this kind of pattern right here. So it means just to harden it out more. Like so. So yeah, pretty much like that. And this pattern right here is gonna come down to pretty much it's gonna stop right about there. So it's gonna look pretty much like that. Alright. Then we can go ahead and get into the main scaling. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and harden in these spikes on the neck here. Alright, so then the same thing that we usually do for our scales, which is just, actually, you know what, for this one we might go in and do some cross hatching. So you know that Ghidorah's scales are quite a bit more intricate and specialized than Godzilla's. So we can just draw some thin lines across here. Almost like what we did with Godzilla's legs and arms, but it's not going to be as hardened out. So yeah, we're going to do that, and then we're going to do crisscross type lines. So just do lines the other way. Like so. We can go ahead and do our kind of normal scale pattern on top of it, just really lightly though. Yeah, kind of something like that. And actually for this right here, we can go ahead and do our pattern that we did right here, but it's going to be right here, so it's going to look like that. And then we can erase where we did the detail for those. Alright, and we can go ahead and finish up with the scaling. So yeah, it's pretty much going to look like that. Actually, for right here, I'm going to erase that. I'm going to try to have it more angled. So I'm going to try to get it to stop right about there. So we don't want it to go just straight down, we want it to kind of angle. I guess it doesn't have to go on for that long, so I guess something like that's going to be good. Actually, probably be better to do it like that. Alright, then we can go ahead and move on to our other head. So we're going to have his large scale pattern right there. So we're going to see that, and then let's see, something like that, I guess. So it would kind of disappear almost. Yeah, so just kind of draw your line, go down there. I'll make it more subtle. So something like that. Yeah, and then we can go and do the rest of our pattern here. So basically like that. Then these are going to go out to here. Like that. Maybe not quite like that though. Yeah, something like that. Alright, and then we can go ahead and draw in spikes. Which again are going to become pretty much invisible as we go down. Make them a bit more spiky. Like that. Okay, and you have some lines in here that I'm going to erase. Alright, just kind of starting to think that maybe this line right here isn't necessary. Maybe we should take a different approach to doing this. Maybe if we did something more like that. Probably should have practiced more with Ghidorah than Godzilla for doing this. Alright, I think we'll just stick with that. So I think that looks good. We can do our cross-hatching method. And overlay a scale pattern on top of that. So yeah, kind of something like that. Alright, then we can move on to the last head. Which I think is going to kind of look like that. Something or other. So yeah, we can go in and, whoops. So yeah, we can go in and start doing this now. Just do your normal scale pattern that we did before. It's very similar to this, the middle next patterns, just a bit different as far as how it's laid on here. So yeah, it's going to be like that, and then we're going to have it stop right about there. So yeah, maybe not quite like that. Actually, for all of these, maybe not make them, probably be best not to make them go or end off in a straight point. Maybe something like that would be better. Yeah, it definitely looks a lot better that way. So yeah, we can have them like that. We can do our cross hatching. Actually, I'll go and put in the scales now. Alright. With honestly, I mean, with how much of in my art I sketch and all that, you would think I would give myself a name like Paleo Sketch, but turns out that was already taken. Which, if you actually want to know, Paleo Sketch is a channel quite a bit like mine, except he does more digital art type stuff. Actually, I don't know if it's a he or a she, but yeah, they do more digital art type stuff. They definitely make great art, so I definitely consider going to their channel. So yeah, that is our Ghidorah heads. I'm gonna go in and shade in these scales down here. So for that, I'm gonna use a HB pencil. I'm just using that because that's the sharpest one I have, and I'm just gonna make it dark at the bottoms, then make it light at the top, kind of similar to what we did Godzilla's scale is down here. Just to make it not so much as bland. Give it more detail and depth. So yeah, pretty basic. I might speed through this, I probably will. Alright, so now that we're done with that, we can go in and move into scaling out the rest of the body, which is pretty much going to be the exact same way that we scaled the head. But I think, just for conservation of time, we're just going to do our normal scale pattern. So we're going to start doing that. And we're going to do that for pretty much all throughout the body, except the wings, of course. Then we're going to have different details for the wings, which I'll show you guys whenever we get to that, but yeah. Just going to do some small scales. And we're pretty much going to do that pretty much everywhere, even the feet. So yeah, just going to move along and do small scales as I go. For the leg here, we can go in and detail it some more and give it some wrinkles and muscle lines. Yeah, that's pretty much all we need to do. Nothing too fancy. Alright, so that's pretty much for the tail, or tails. I might darken this area a little bit with my HB just to kind of make it stand out a bit more. Other than that, that's pretty much it. We can go in and scale in the little different parts of the wing here. But you don't want to do it too much. Just enough where you can tell that it's scaled and not some other texture. Yeah, that's actually coming on a lot smoother than I thought it would. So hopefully this part 3 isn't going to take much longer than probably 40 or so minutes. Because the building is probably won't take very long at all. Neither will the kind of like sky details I'm gonna do. So yeah, might be a lot better and a lot quicker than I thought it would. So that's definitely good. So I'm definitely trying to upload on a much more consistent schedule than what I have. I have a lot of really cool stuff planned. Or mainly one cool thing planned that I think you all are gonna like. It's not a drawing, but it's definitely something cool. Should be the very next video after this. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. Which, I mean, it's not the Godzilla Earth. That's not what I'm talking about. It's something different. So it might be premiering. It might already been. You guys might already be notified that it's premiering already or not. but yeah, I'll probably premiere it. I've never used premiering before, but I know how it works, so it should be fun. Alright, so that's it for this arm, or for this wing, which is somewhat of an arm. Alright, so yeah, just gonna do this side the same way. See, this is definitely coming together really good. So hopefully it'll stay like that and not crash somehow. What would really suck if this whole video somehow got deleted. That happened with my Suchomimus tutorial. I still don't know where that is, if it just deleted or I don't know what happened to it. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the scaling of these. Now for the spikes right here, we can go into detailing those a tiny bit just by putting in a few lines, but really that's all that's necessary. Then for the wings, they're pretty basic. You're just gonna put in some lines in there. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the detailing the wings here. And whenever you have these like crevices, or if it dips down, you can like draw lines from that to kind of show that it's like that. Yeah, pretty basic otherwise. Definitely nothing too hard. So yeah, that's it for those wings, or that wing, I guess. That was only one wing. We can move on to this one. Alright. Probably don't need this paper anymore. Alright, I'm gonna just do this little part there. Yeah, this is pretty sloppy, but it still works for giving the wing texture. I mean, most of my drawings have a pretty sketchy look to it, but yeah, definitely don't want to go too far into texturing, because again, I don't want to make this video so long that nobody's going to want to click on it. Sometimes people don't really like this whole thing of clicking on a video that takes forever, because usually just find it that it wastes their time, which frankly it really kind of does, that they're not going to draw it. So yeah, alright, so that is actually it for Ghidorah and Godzilla. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade in both of them, so I'm going to give both of them a bit of a shade. I just need to find my 4B pencil. Here it is. You guys can see 4B. Alright, so we're just going to go in and shade pretty much everything. So yeah, just shade the parts where it gets low. And especially this leg right here, I'm going to shade in quite a bit. And this arm as well. And then you have the tail. trying to hold my pencil out so it's not gonna, my shadow's not gonna like butt in the way. So, alright, so pretty much just like that. And then we're gonna do Ghidorah, which we're gonna shade in his tails, since they're not exactly gonna be in the sunlight. There is his body, so we can give that a bit of shade as well. There's really not much shading going on with Ghidorah. But yeah, I can go and use a Q-tip and kind of fade in everything. Just not too much, because I made the mistake before of fading in stuff a bit too much and then ends up all going to crap. So I definitely don't want to do it all that much. Pretty much like that. Alright, so that is it for both of these kaiju. Now we're going to move on to the more atmospheric details, like the buildings. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that in. For the buildings, you kind of just want to do a line, almost like what we did for Godzilla's scales down here, but you just don't want to make it as jagged, but kind of just let the wrinkles in the paper guide your hand through, so it's not completely straight, but also not completely wobbly either. I'm going to put another taller building behind this one. Make it probably come about to here, and then drop, something like that. And then over here we got this really big one, which I'll move so you guys can see. Just gonna drop down like that. You have a few smaller ones right beside it here. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the buildings. It's obviously not it, but that's it for like the main form of them. And now we're going to get into making the windows, which are just going to kind of be small squares, like so. So yeah, you're just going to draw these about every like centimeter, no, not centimeter, not very long distance at all, pretty much like that. I don't know how exactly this is going to turn out, but the buildings of course don't have to be as detailed, because the main focus in this drawing is Godzilla and Ghidorah. So the less you detail the building, probably the better, just so that way you don't devote as much attention away from Godzilla and Ghidorah. So yeah, it's gonna kind of look like that. Alright, so that's it for this building. So obviously this is kind of some sort of hotel type style building. And for the bigger buildings, we're gonna do it like those more city type buildings that are almost completely made of glass, except for the tops. So we can go in and just line off the tops here. Like so. But other than that, the building is going to be completely glass. So I'm just going to draw some lines. So this building is going to be almost entirely made up of rectangles. And actually for this I might go and use my ruler. Hopefully you guys can see that. But yeah, rulers always help whenever trying to make more straight lines. Alright, so yeah, other than that, we're just going to go sideways, or horizontally, I should say now, and we're going to draw in the rest of the windows. So I'm probably going to have to hold it like that so I can draw it a bit better. Yeah, I'm making them a bit more rectangular than anything else. And then for the detailing, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna take my 4B pencil and we're just gonna do a bit of something like that. So yeah, pretty much just do that for each of the windows, kind of make it dark over here, dark over there, and then make it light as we go into the middle. Alright, so that's it for the windows. For the top here, I'm probably just gonna shade it in and make it pretty much completely black except for the top part to kind of give it almost like a shine type look. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that building. And for the far left building over here, we can go in and add some small details, which aren't going to be too noticeable. Just kind of some lines everywhere. If you want to, you can just kind of randomize it. You don't have to be too visible. But yeah, and other than that, we can go in and take a 4B pencil and then shade in all the areas besides the windows. I'm trying to go in and speed this up. Alright, so that's it for those two buildings. Now I'm going to move on to these three over here, which these three, or at least these two on the side, are going to be basically kind of styled like this one over here. So we're just going to do some square type rectangles almost. So yeah, we're going to do that for both of these here. For this one, I'm probably going to do maybe like 1.5 row of windows. Alright, so yeah, that's it for those two. And then we have the last two steps, which is this building, the atmosphere. Alright. So yeah, we can go in and start with making this filled with glass. So we're just gonna take a ruler and then line it up with everything. Alright, so that's it for both of our buildings, or all of our buildings actually. So now I'm going to move everything back in view. Alright, so now this is all in view. I'm going to go in and get to making the background, which really isn't going to be much. It's just kind of scribbling everywhere. So yeah, I should probably actually use my paper. So we're just going to kind of scribble everywhere, and then we're going to use the Q-tip later on and kind of make everything smooth in together. So yeah, you want to kind of do this in more of a horizontal type fashion. And you also want to make some places a bit darker than others, just for different aspects. These are going to kind of be like buildings more in the background. Let's see. So yeah, we're just going to draw in all of that. Probably going to speed this process up as well. So I think that's actually it, which is definitely very relieving to say. So yeah, that's it for Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. So I hope you all liked this tutorial. If you're new, make sure you like and subscribe and leave a comment on what you guys want me to draw next. And yeah, so with that, I will see you all in the next video. And keep your pencil sharp, everybody.